Is this always the case that you have to get this all set up for yourself?
Pretty much.
Company CEO can have a little bit of production assistant.
Yeah, that's pretty much the. Yeah, how do people sit on this side? Okay, I guess it's.
I can tilt it, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's literally in my eyes and I can't see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's good. I think we're good with that.
Yeah.
This was a long overdue session, Leila. It's nice to sit down with you.
Yeah.
Well,
happy
fresh
to be
off
here.
the Italy trip. You've been at Infinite now for what, like 12 years? 15? 13?
13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. A long time.
I always thought, like, I have said this to you before, but I always liked the idea of writing like a little memory book of things that happen with Infinite, and I'd call it like Infinite Chapters, because it's just like all these chapters. And every chapter is sort of about somebody more than anything. Like, you know, there's events that have obviously been very significant, and those are great. But the people, especially like as the group was starting to come together, is always such a like great story.
Yeah.
And yours is always one of my favorites. And the amount of time it took us to convince you. But what a pleasure it's been, though, because you're absolutely running the show right now. And it was just such an unlikely choice for you to be in this world.
Well, I, honestly, all the time I find myself thinking like, what the hell am I doing here? Not in a negative way, but more just like if I think of the kind of roadmap that I had in mind for myself, it wasn't this one, not because I don't like it. It's just I didn't have a business background. I never had like any of the courses that would have directly applied to this would have been the course that I've been like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. Right. So just not where I saw myself. I just totally envisioned myself being a teacher, a professor. That's where I thought I would be.
So when we met, you were like masters, you were finishing your PhD.
When we met, I was doing my master's. I hadn't even started the PhD yet. Yeah. And this was like a little
part-time gig.
For me, it was like a side gig. I had always had a bunch of jobs. Like I always had, like anyone who knew me knew I did school full time, and I always worked around 30 hours a week between multiple jobs. And this happened to be one of those jobs.
So you came in, you're doing your master's. The plan is to go to the PhD.
Yeah.
Then obviously the PhD starts. At the same time, I'm sort of that devil on your shoulder telling you school sucks, get out now, get out now.
Yeah.
And all the while you remain committed to this incredible path that you've picked, which is very difficult, so I respect you for doing it. But you finished it.
I finished it. To be clear, school does suck, and I recognize that. I think it's more that I hate quitting. Mm-hmm. Like, if I've started something, I have to see it through, because if I don't see it through, then I don't know if it wasn't right for me or not. I need to be able to say with 100% conviction that if I didn't take this path, it's because I know it wasn't right for me. And if I quit halfway through, I would always wonder.
I respect that so much. I respect that so much. And I think that is absolutely the way it should be. And I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm the same way. Like, there's something in the back of my head where I'm like, am I trying to be practical or am I quitting? And even if there's 1 in a million that I feel like I'm quitting, then I can't do it.
Yeah.
But if like I'm 100% sure that like, no, practically speaking, I need to change course right now, then that's a different story. But I respect that so much with the fact that like you don't want to quit. And like we've had this conversation. We're very fortunate that our team here is amazing. And like I constantly talk about it. And we've had a lot of people from the outside also, compliment us on the team. And the first thing we'll say about the team was we never built around people's resumes. We built around people's characters.
Yeah.
And this exactly what you're talking about, the fact that you don't quit, and the fact that that is one of the many great attributes that you have, and your character, I think is what led to then you doing what you're doing today. Because it does, like, no one comes out like of a kindergarten, knowing what they know about this world, right? Like somewhere along the way you learn and you fall into this world. It just so happened that maybe for you was a little bit later than some other people.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, speaking of what you say, when you said kindergarten, you're just jarring up a little. I don't know if I've told you this before, but when I try and explain to my parents what I do, because for them this is such a foreign industry, I tried to, I kind of described a day in the life of, and my dad brought up this memory from when I was very young, not in kindergarten, but I don't know, like fourth grade or something. And he was like, this is basically what you do. So there was my school at the time, elementary school, started this little like pilot project of conflict management. And they were saying, we have all these disagreements in the schoolyard. So what a great idea would be to have like one of the older kids kind of mentor the younger kids and help them resolve. So what that meant was they had a hat made for me with the initials CM for conflict manager. And my dad thought it was hilarious. And I'm like wearing this like hat every day. And I had a clipboard, very professional. And on that clipboard, if I saw a disagreement, I had to go up to the two individuals involved, hear both sides of the story, and try and present a resolution. And when I was describing my job now, my dad's like, that's literally, you are a conflict manager. You went back to like whatever, fourth grade or whatever it was. But not that I'm saying it's conflict, but a lot of it is like hearing lots of different sides and coming up with some kind of solution that everybody is happy with or can collaborate towards, right? At least that's not all of my job, but a lot of the times I reflect on that.
So you do, I mean, ultimately you manage when everybody, all the teams come together, you manage that.
Yeah.
And then when our teams meet the clients, you manage all of that. So as much as it may not be a conflict, it is a lot of like bringing people together and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
And especially as it. So we can comfortably write Leila Ouji managing people and conflicts since 2000.
Well, you always had that like mantra, right? Like you used to have it on like, I don't know, a whiteboard or something, manage expectations, right? And that's also whether you're managing conflicts between, kids in the schoolyard or discussions between various teams, like it doesn't have to be anything negative. It's just ultimately you want to make sure that everybody knows what to expect, or if things happen that are outside of their expectations, that they know that they have capable people who will have their back and help re-steer the path forward for them to get them
We're all
back
people.
in check. Yeah.
I like those fundamentals of us as people and how we interact with one another doesn't change. Even in a professional setting, you try and be a lot, let's say, more professional in the delivery of things, but the underlying needs don't really change all that much.
Yeah.
So anyways, going back, you go into your PhD, you're about to go, and the idea is you're going to finish the PhD, you're going to start teaching at U of T, and we're pulling you to come in. And one day, this is always one of my favorite memories, because I kept telling you, hey, just come and work full time. And you're like, nope, I've been doing this PhD for a reason. Nope, doing the PhD for a reason. And one day you said, you don't even have a full-time role for me. Like what I'm doing right now is part-time, and like I'm not. And I'm like, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was convinced that that's it. Now this is going to be. That was to me, now you're dipping your toes into the waters and you're going to be swimming soon. And so I was like, well, Leila, we've got a lot of things that we're not doing today. That would be full time. And you did, you came in, you were the first person to initiate our project management. And you went into absolute chaos. Like the way I envision your first little experience there was going into a room with 800 books and 5,000 articles and 10,000 magazines just piled up on each other, and you're trying to sort it out. But you did that, and fast forward to today, and all the teams that deal with our clients report up to you, and you make sure that everyone's sort of clicking along perfectly.
Farrington's gonna love that one.
Yeah. Veridun, sinner.
That's the gold that he looks for, right? When he's
Yeah,
watching these
this
things.
just makes his whole thing. It's
Yeah.
like, it was worth watching.
Like, let me cut out the rest.
Clicking along, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've hired a lot of people, and you've got a lot of great stories, but why don't you give us a few?
Whenever people ask me what I love about my job or why I'm doing this job or why I ended up here, the first thing I say is like, I really love the people that I work with. The second thing I would say is that I feel like I was employee number 4 here, right? And I came here completely outside of my depth. And the 3 of you who were here prior to me, like, took so much time to make sure that I felt supported, that I had the knowledge and the information I needed to succeed. But just ultimately had my back. Like, I had my back, but I still felt independent, right? I knew that I could go into something and kind of take it over and make it my own and kind of fly, and I wasn't being micromanaged, and I've never felt like that. And that's been very important to me, because I feel like when you have, in order for you to properly grow in any kind of job that you have, if you have somebody constantly over your shoulder, you're...
I never understood
no
that.
path.
I never understood bringing in amazing people and then micromanaging them. Like, what's the point of having someone great if you're not just going to let them go out there
Well, I
and
think
do
it's
great
because you don't
things?
think they're amazing. I think if you're doing that to someone, you're doubting them, right?
Either
You
you're
don't have
doubting
confidence
them,
in
or
them.
you have illusions of grandeur where you think you're so much better
Fair.
than everybody else. You see it so much clearly, and sometimes I see that, and it's interesting for me because there's sometimes I come across people who are incredibly successful. In fact, I will say this now upon a bit like moment of reflection right now. I don't remember ever coming across anyone who is supremely and truly successful who micromanage the people around them. They always empower the people around them. And the people that might have a small degree of success, but I've never actually, now I'm thinking about it, I haven't personally met anyone who's had tremendous success and they micromanage everyone on their team. Generally speaking, they're surrounded by a very strong group of people. And
I think, sorry, I'm having lots of little random thoughts pop up in my mind right now, but I think the key is a little bit of a blend of, like, you don't want to throw people into the chaos and the fire. Sometimes that happens, and there are some people that thrive in that and do really well, and they can become really strong in that. But I feel like the perfect balance is letting that new person that comes in know that you support them. If they make a mistake, it's okay, and you have their back.
right.
But at the same time, empowering them to, when they come to you and be like, I don't know what to do, not saying like, this is exactly what you need to do from step 1 to 20, but be like, what do you think you should do, right? Talk me through what you would do if I wasn't here. If you had nobody to go through and you were in the fire alone, what would you do?
Right.
Tell me what those steps are, and then I'll tell you which pieces maybe you didn't consider, and then you can pick it up, because they need to make it their own. I found anytime we try, sometimes you try and like create hyper processes for everything, where you have like, here's your like step 1 to 1. Like, I used to work for another company, like a large publicly traded company. I'll never forget, I started there. It was like my first kind of like office job in university, and they had a trainer. So literally this company had a person that their sole job was to train, not just for one team, but for all of the teams. And so this person came to me. First thing they did is they had me read a manual with like, it was brutal. It was like steps 1 through like 80 million of like, this is how you do function X. And that's all it was. There was no thought process. There was no need to rely on intuition. It was just like, follow the steps and you'll be fine, right? And I feel like that's not the way forward either. It's somewhere kind of in the middle. It's like, you don't throw me into the fire, but also push me a little bit so that I can fly.
Right. I think, generally speaking, finding a healthy relationship with mistakes is important if you want to build a team and if you want to build anything in life, I think, generally. But in the context of what we're talking about, there are certain mistakes that are okay for your team to make and learn from, and you need to empower them to move forward and put their mind at ease that if they make those mistakes, you've got their back, it'll be fine. There's also certain mistakes that are not okay to make, and you need to sort of protect against that. So I agree with you in finding that right balance is key, but it also changes over time. Like when we had, a very small team of 10 or 12 people, and we had smaller set of clients, I think that the dynamic was very different. When you fast forward where you've got 80, 90 clients, and you've got 50, 60, how much fun do you think Feridun's going to have with this thing that keeps falling?
I'm just imagining everything.
Yeah, like I'm trying, man. This for whatever reason the microphone's not. But as the team gets bigger, the clients are larger, the hiring is more rapid. The process changes a little bit, and what you look for and how people come in and the roles they come into, everything changes. Everything's a lot more defined, I would say. Like when you came in trying to take things over as a project manager, there's literally no experience whatsoever in that world by anyone. Versus somebody who's coming in now, obviously it's a lot more established, and yeah, sure, we improve things every day, but there's a method to the madness now. It's been going on for years. But nonetheless, I think you're right in that finding that balance. But there's always a few key qualities that you look for and in people as a general. And one of the things that I've always found incredible about you, which is the reason why I was adamant that with our project management, you would be the perfect candidate, because there was a bit of a debate, can we put all of this onto somebody? And I felt very strong that you can handle it, is because you have an incredible quality to care. Like there's very few, there's a lot of caring people, but you absolutely care. Whatever you take on, it's a matter of pride and commitment to you. And it, interestingly enough, goes back to what you were saying about not quitting. But when I find that if something is on your plate, I'm out. Because you will not forget, you will not drop the ball. If you need to come back to me, if you need to go anybody, you will do that. And that quality, it was such a beautiful quality to see. And I knew, all right, if Leila takes this over, she will get it across the line. And you have in now many different roles in many different ways over the past 12 years, 13 years, but it's been one of your many amazing qualities. Caring, you're obviously very intelligent, very articulate, you're good at conflict resolution, all those things, but this was something that I felt was particularly good. Now, you've hired a lot of people, and I guess we've seen a lot of different results over the years. What are your some thoughts on what do you look for when you're bringing people in?
Well, I'll tell you this. I find that resumes are such a poor reflection of the person, and I've learned that more and more. And what I mean by that is people have, we all do this, but there's certain buzzwords, characteristics that people like to plop on there. It's almost like it's a script, right? Things like I'm detail oriented, or I'm good at, I have great people skills, or whatever the case may be. There's almost like a list, because I remember seeing it when I was in high school or university, and you're trying to get ready for a job, and people just pluck from that and they plop it on the page, but it means nothing. And so when really, for me, talk is cheap. I want to see what you're going to do. Right. And I guess what I'm telling you is when somebody comes in front of me on that initial interview or the subsequent interactions, there are a few things that kind of bubble to the surface that I look for, and I'm like, I'm feeling this person. And sometimes I can be wrong, but so one thing is taking initiative. Just, have you done a little bit more research outside of the kind of black and white of what is in the job posting? do you come ready with questions that are not the, sorry, but like the BS questions of like, tell me how you would handle like an argument with a coworker or like some nonsense. Like, I want to see that you're coming to this willing to look a little bit outside of the checklist. People, I find that when you're, especially in any kind of position where you're doing something that's people facing, you want to be able to look beyond the black and white of what's on the page. I don't know if I'm expressing myself
No, I
well
get
right
that.
now.
And I think like I agree with you because you know what, it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot lost in not sitting in front of somebody. I think like not being able to see somebody and read their, like if I think about, okay, how much do I get out of sitting across somebody in a meeting, especially if I've never met them before, you know, this is the first meeting, and then compare that to a video call, and then compare that to just an audio call, and then compare that to just a resume. Like the amount of lost sort of substance that I can get, information, data I can get is like, maybe if we call the in person 100, for me, I think you get a lot more in 100.
Yeah.
And then you go down to the resume and it's like a 5, like it almost means nothing. Now, for example, Paul always talks about how like Malcolm Gladwell does his interviews just on audio. He doesn't want to like see the person or be influenced, etc., etc. And there may be some merit to that, but like me personally, I get a lot out of like sitting down with someone, and I'm not looking for any specific criteria or they have to be this way or that way, but I just feel like all the cues that they give you as far as like just how do they come to the meeting, how do they approach the conversation, how comfortable do they feel there, it depending on the role, it could play a big factor in you knowing that. But the initiative thing that you're talking about is a big one, because if you're having a meeting, you'd like to think like, hey, this person went on the website, took like 4 minutes just to look up my profile or to look at the company or the business, to at least be able to put together 3 sentences about who we are and what we do. And it's sometimes shocking how little of that people do. Like if I'm meeting with new individuals, I try and do that. Not like, you know, I don't really hire too many people, but like, I mean, when we're meeting prospects or stuff like that, like I try and go ahead and take a look at their website, look at their people, get a sense of, you know, their sort of background. And that helps in me establishing. But it's interesting when we get people who are coming in here for, say, an interview, and they've done none of that.
Yes. And one more thing I would say I look for, especially because the roles that I hire for tend to be client facing, is I want to see a blend between humility and confidence.
Right.
Because if, first of all, anybody who has confidence is great, but if you come to the table cocky, like, I just find that so impossible to understand.
Right.
How could you possibly know everything about this job, about this company, about this industry? You can't. You won't. Right. So if you come to the table like that, I'm already off put, because I'm like, that's the vibe you're going to give to a client, is like, you're better than them, you know more than them, and that's not going to fly. And but at the same time, you can't have somebody who's, you know, completely timid and hiding. There needs to be that blend to be able to go and engage with clients. You have to be, so again, somewhere in that middle space.
I think Chris Zegers was a good example of that. Like, he came in.
Agreed.
He's very like good at establishing a rapport, even though he's not from the industry. It's clear that he has experience, and he's able to like come in, take the conversation, carry it, and then things that he doesn't know, just, hey, I'll get back to you with that. But he's a good example of that.
Agreed.
I'm sure there's a lot of other great people here, I'm not saying, but I've worked with Chris more so than some others.
I love watching people in interviews because I think that is the way that they would conduct themselves with a client. And you're right, he has great demeanor with clients. I actually just met with one of our clients today at lunch, and they were commenting, I haven't even shared this with Tom yet, but they were commenting about Tom, saying,
Shout out to Tom.
Yeah, for real. They were saying, Tom comes, they said he has excellent demeanor with clients, and what they highlighted was that he's so calm that if the client comes into that call or that meeting very agitated, worried, upset, whatever, Tom instantly brings that cool, collected stance that they need to be like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's not going to be okay immediately, but we're going to figure this out for you. I got you. And I really, that's key as well.
Do you think his radio voice helps with that?
His voice is so good, man. First of all, his name, Tom Dodge.
It's a good name.
It's a good name. It's a really good name. And then paired with the voice, it's kind of amazing. Yeah. It sounds made up. Like, to me, I tell them that all the time. Like, your name sounds like it's fake. Because it's so, yeah.
We've had some interesting, I think, like you and Annie and many of the others on the team, but you and Annie particularly, and Lori, people are very comfortable opening up to you guys. And I found that that's also a great quality, because you'll end up with, whether it's our team or clients, and people tend to open up and share and get. And I think once you have that relationship, it helps in creating a great environment, whether it is with a client or it's internal to us.
Yeah, I'm always very grateful when a client or a member of our team will come to me and be like, I'm worried, upset, frustrated with X. I'm actually very grateful that they're doing that, because I'm like, A, you trust me and I've gained your confidence. Thank you. That means a lot to me. I don't take that for granted. And B, I'm like, now I don't have to wonder if you're upset, concerned, whatever. You're telling me. Like, that's so huge to me. Like, I really struggle. I'm a very open person, like to the point where it's a little bit too much sometimes. And I think I really struggle with people who are closed and don't share, because I'm like, how can we ever progress forward? Like, I realize professional versus personal interactions are very different, but even just in the professional realm, I'm not telling you need to tell me about the guy you went out with last night, but if you are concerned about something in the professional realm, I want to know that. Sure. How am I ever going to be able to, like, you can't expect, you can't expect any kind of change or improvement if you're not going to open up and share. And when you open up and share, then I can assure you that we're going to deal with it in a way that has tact and consideration for everybody involved, right?
Now, can we take a second to highlight your awesome phrases?
I was like, where is this going?
The Leila classics.
I already know where you're going to go with this. You say Mosey.
You like the Mosey. I like the Mosey.
I do.
I'm going to Mosey. It's great.
I like that one, yeah.
Another one that's gained a significant amount of traction is fuss. Yeah. I'm not fussed. They're not fussed. They are fussed. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Another new one in my repertoire is love and hugs. Like, it's all love and hugs with them. Yeah, it's all good. That's a new one in the repertoire. Yeah, I change them up every now and then.
I think you've got some other ones too. I don't know.
I have some that are not like appropriate for on air. Yeah, but due to my musical inclinations. Yeah, but
nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
Do you find it challenging that, as someone who's always been hip and with it, as
I don't know about that.
as they said, and they don't. I don't think anyone today says with it anymore. But now the younger folks in our office are using certain phrases that are not familiar to you, and you're like,
very hard for me.
Oh my God,
it's very hard, and I need to know about it. I don't like being out of the loop, but I'm definitely very.
I accepted mine.
Pardon? Yeah. No, it's like even in terms of like. even like the concerts I go to, I feel like I go to concerts with people who, like, if I were to tell, some of the 20 somethings in the office, we'd be like, who is that? Or like,
Right.
oh, the oldies station. Like, so yeah, I'm
Oldie.
definitely,
How dare you.
so I definitely wouldn't say I'm with it. Like I'm locked in a certain
No,
era.
but you were always you were up to date with pop culture.
I'm up to date with pop culture. I
Okay.
am still very interested in that
Alright.
world. Yeah, I would say
So
so.
the point of this being, anyone new kind of cool things to say, new little statements. I think one you brought to me, which I had no idea what it meant, was what was it? R bomb, red bomb,
Oh, I had
R-bomb.
another one that was way more
No.
scandalous.
R bomb,
Oh yeah, was it R bomb?
something where you read the
where
message.
you're kind of like an R bomb. Yeah,
But
where
then
the
you
message
don't
is marked as,
respond.
like that
Yeah.
that was
I
brought
don't
to me by the
R-bomb
youth.
anybody.
Yeah, you answer
I'm old
everyone.
school. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I that one was a really big unknown for me. The R bomb. That one was hard. I had to really rack my brain on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know any of the phrases.
No?
No.
No.
But it was very good chatting with you, Leila. Hopefully we'll get to do more of these.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's time to mosey.
Okay. I'm not fussed about it.
It was all love and hugs.
Yes. I like what you did there. That's good.
Thanks,
Ali.
Leila.
Thank you.